Okay, so the Mishnah's this we're going to continue the procedure. By way of introduction, I would say that there are in the paragraph in the Torah that describes the whole procedure of Sotah. Um, we have four times it uses the word she drink or should be made to drink the water. Now remember that the water was a formula that included some herbs and some dirt and some critically scraping off of the parchment in which like they would write the parsha of the sota on the parchment, then scrape off the ink and mix that in the water as well. And the verb drink is used four times in this paragraph, and the discussion today is going to be, exactly like what is the sequence here and why is it written that many times that, she only drinks once, right? So why is it described four times? So we'll see all that. So the mission starts with the basic procedure. She would take the mincha. The mincha is the flour offering that the sota brings. So he would take it out of the palm basket from the flour, and put it in one of the vessels of the temple vessel, and then put it on her hand. So she's holding it. And the Kohen puts his beneath her hand. When you find, you wave it. So this is a typical thing of any kind of sacrifice, is that it gets picked up by the owner and or the Kohen and waved, meaning lifted up and down. And then so you wave it and you bring it to the mizbeach, to the altar. Kamat v'hitir, then you scoop out a handful of flour, and he burns it on the altar. The rest of the flour that didn't get burned on the altar belongs to the other priests, as is typical of many sacrifices. Part is to the mizbeach, part is to the altar, and the rest is given to the priests. He would then give her the water to drink, or he would drink the water, and then he would do the mincha procedure, the sacrifice. No, the other way around. First the mincha, and then the drinking of the water. Shenamar, and here's Rabbi Shimon's proof. This is I think the third instance of the word to drink in the parsha. Afterwards, meaning he interprets it after the flour is sacrificed, then he gives her to drink the water. And im hishkav kshera. But if he didn't do that way, if she first drank and then did the mincha, that's also okay. And the Mishnah does not explain the Tanakama's view, the opposing view to Rabbi Shimon, but the Gemara will get there. Rabbi Elazar said to Rabbi Yoshia, his contemporary. Yes, there was another Rabbi Yoshia later on or earlier. I'm not going to let you sit down until you explain something to me. Like he sees him, he's like, I need to know this right now. How do you know that the mincha of the sota requires being waved? So minalan, like, where do you get that from? We just saw the Mishnah quote the pasuk. It's written there explicitly that it gets waved. So what are you even asking? So bibali minalan. So Elazar says no. What I'm asking is, how do you know that the woman herself participates in this waving? Maybe the Kohen does it. So Gemara answers, Rabbi Yosha answers, Asya yad mishlamim. So we have Gzer Shava, a common word which teaches us an equivalence from shlamim, from a general, the general prescription of a carbon shlamim, which is of the type that it's shared by the owners of the Kohanim and the Mizbeach. And we use there the word yad. In the Parsha of Sotah says the Kohen takes from the hand of the woman. It says Yadav to Vienna. saying that the owner brings the sacrifices, use the word yad, his hands bring it. Okay, so by using the word hands, and indeed it seems like why would it use the word hand there at all, right? The person brings it, the hand doesn't bring it, but by using the word hand, makan kohen, aflahalan kohen. So in the case of Sotah, we know that the Kohen is involved because there's Lakacha Kohen Miyad Haisha. Aflahal Kohen, so the Shlamim also the Kohen is the one who does the waving. Umalahal and Balim, and just as in the case of Shlamim, Yadav Vienna refers to the owner. I mean, that's explicit. So here too with Sotah, where it says Miyad Haisha, uses the word Yad, the owner does the waving also. So who does it? Is it the Kohen or the owner? Okay, so how do you do it? As the Mishnah said, the Kohen puts his hand underneath the owner's, the subject's hand, the Sotah or whoever is bringing the Shlamim in either case, and they do it together. Okay, that makes sense. So the Mishnah said that you wave it and then you bring it to the Mizbeach, you take out the handful, the Kohen takes out the handful and burns it on the Mizbeach. And then he gave, this is the Tanakhama's view, she drinks the water and then does the mincha. But wait a minute, we just said that the Kohen already offered it to the Mizbeach on the Mizbeach before she drank. So, like, what's going on here? This is what it means. Seder Menachos Kesan. How do you do the mincha? Heini Fihigish Kamas Vihikir. You do the waving and bring it to the Mizbeach, take the handful and put it on the Tarnachal Kohanim, and everything else, the rest of the flour, it goes to the Kohanim. Ubahashka Gufa Pliga Shimon Rabbana. And then about when the drinking takes place, that is subject to the dispute between Rabbi Shimon and the rabbis. The rabbis say first you drink and then you do the mincha. Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Shimon says the mincha of sacrifice comes first. And his proof is, as it said in the Mishnah, and then afterwards shall she drink, which he interprets after what? After the mincha. Okay. Again, we still haven't come to a response from the Tanakhama as, like, how does he interpret the verses? We'll get there. Now, the Mishnah also said, even according to Rabbi Shimon, if you did it backwards, if you did the drinking and then the mincha, it's still okay. Tanarabana. The rabbis taught, we have a brisa, Vishka Matalad Lamar. Why does it say he gives her to drink? It's already said, as I said, it's written several times. So, like, what's with the multiple mentions of drinking? So as I mentioned, you scrape off the ink off of the you write the parsha and you scrape off the ink into the water. So if that's all done, and then she says, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not agreeing to drink the water. Then ma'arinoso umashkinoso al-karcha. Not too late. She's already agreed to this point. The ritual has begun. We're going to force her to drink. Diva Rabbi Kiva. So this is Rabbi Kiva. Shimon Omer v'chayashkem al Lamar. Shimon says, why does it say, and then she shall drink? Well, same question. Like, why this multiple times? Rabbi Shimon's interpretation is, so Rabbi Kiva says, why does it say you give her the drink? Because you're going to force her to drink under certain circumstances. In other words, if we're already in mid-ritual and she decides she doesn't want to do it anymore, too bad, right? So that's why the Torah has this extra verb to drink. Rabbi Shimon says, no, you know why it says here to drink? Because the drinking is the last thing. Bachar Yashka means after all of the whole ceremony, including the mincha, that's when the drinking happens. Magi Shlosh is very makrin. So according to Rabbi Shimon, it teaches that there are three things that are prerequisites for her to drink. Ajlokar kamet. you have to have already sacrificed the mincha, and the scroll has to be erased, has to be scraped off into the water. And she has to agree. You remember that part of the ceremony is the Kohen says, "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to drink the water, and if you're innocent, and all is good, and if you're guilty, you're going to suffer this horrible death." And she says, "Amen." She accepts the procedure. So these are all things that have to be done before the actual drinking. So the Gemara is going to examine these. Wait, Achlo Karava Kometz, Rabbi Shimon Tame. Okay, so the this statement is that the mincha has to be sacrificed first. Yeah, that's Rabbi Shimon's view, right? That's what we saw in the Mishnah, that Rabbi Shimon says first you do the mincha and then you drink. That's what he said in the Mishnah. And now, and the second thing is that the parchment has to be scraped off into the water. Like, obviously that's the case because it's part of the formula for the water that she drinks. So you can't, it's not possible to drink it before it's created, right? It's created by scraping off the parsha. So like, why are you even telling me this? That the scraping off of the ink has to be before drinking. Of course it does, because it's part of the recipe. Rashi explains, nikar. Yeah, you could have scraped it off, but maybe you can still see the indentation, or maybe it's not completely scraped off or something. Like you've scraped the ink into the water, but you have to complete the job before she can drink. Okay, it has to be completely erased from the parchment. Okay, so that makes sense. And the third thing that is the prerequisite, she has to verbally assent to the to the procedure. So mishtahu delo shasya. So are you saying that that it's only the drinking that's dependent on this? The whole thing is dependent on this, right? You don't even start anything, any of the procedure until she agrees. That's the first step. So you're going to say you could write the parsha, you could write on the parchment the passage of Sotah. Could you do that before she assents, before she accepts it? That's not true, because Rava says, if you, let's say, the scribe had nothing to do that day, so he did some advanced writing of the Parsha of Sotah for future use. No, that doesn't work. That's Rav already told us that the writing of the parchment has to be specifically for this Sotah after she's accepted the procedure, right? So, like, why is Rabbi Shimon telling us this? Everybody knows this. So says, yeah, indeed, this is kind of superfluous, but Rabbi, it's kind of mentioned, by the way, since I'm talking about things that had to come first, I'm going to include something that everybody knows, which is that the writing has to come first before the one second. That her accepting of the procedure has to be before anything else is done. But we knew that already. Okay, so now finally, what's the reasoning behind the dispute between Rabbi Shimon and the Tanna Kama about which comes first, the mincha or the drinking? So we already saw Rabbi Shimon's explanation, which is pretty clear, which is that first the mincha and then the drinking, and he supported it with the va'achar yashka, and then she drinks, meaning after the mincha. But what's the Tanna Kama's view? So one backs up a second and look. There's three times where it says the word she drinks. V'hishka kama, he gives the woman to drink. V'achar yashka, and then it says, and then he shall give to drink. And then Vishka Basra, and then again Vishka Samayim, she drinks. So as we know, she only drinks once. So how do we interpret these? The Rabbanan Sabre, the rabbis, meaning the opponents of Rabbi Shimon, hold as follows: Vihishka Kama Lagufa. First time it says she drinks that tells you, that's the basic idea that she drinks the water, right? It has to be written somewhere that she drinks the water. Shamashka v'achar kach makriv es minchasa. Um, and that teaches you that you drink and then bring the and then further on the mincha, the sacrifice is described, so that comes after the drinking. V'achar why does it say and afterwards she will drink, which Rabbi Shimon interprets as after the mincha, but the Tanakama interprets as mibayle l'sherishuma nikar. That tells you not after the mincha, but after the scraping off of the word of the ink is complete. That's the after what is being referred to here. So not after the mincha, but after the erasing of the parchment. And the Ishka Basra, and then the last time it says she drinks Shim Nimchaka Megillah V'Omeres Eini Shosa. If she refuses, if after they've started the procedure and after they've scraped off the ink, she says, you know what, I'm out. I'm not participating in this. Then it says she should drink anyway. Like even if you have to force her once you've begun, you have to complete the ritual, even if you have to force her to drink. Okay. Rabbi Shimon Savar, how does Rabbi Shimon interpret these three verbs? Now, he says the middle one where it says, and then she drinks, that is the basic, that's the basic command, the basic prescription, which is first you do the mincha, and then she drinks. First you do the mincha, and then she drinks. V'hishka kama, what about the earlier verb, she drinks? That tells you that even if you start off by drinking and then do the mincha, that's still okay. Okay, that's not the preferred way, but that's still okay. And what about the last one? Vishka Basar, why does it have the third verb? She drinks. As the Tanakh said, that if you've already started and then she says, I'm not in, then you force her to drink. Rabbana. So why do the rabbis reject this reasoning of Rabbi Shimon? But that's not the way you write something. You don't start off by saying, oh, if you did it wrong, then this is what okay, do it this way. No, you start off, as the rabbis said in their interpretation, you start off by saying this is how you do it. First you drink and then you do the mincha. And Rabbi Shimon says, no, it's the other way around. And the first verb, which is strange, but as the rabbis point out, a bit of a strange construction. But the first verb is to tell you that even if you did it this way, it's okay. Okay. So now we finally have an explanation of, or an explanation of why two views differ from each other. Now, so the one wants to know, Rabbi Akiva, we saw earlier in the brayso that we quoted above, it's Rabbi Akiva who says that you force her to drink if she's already accepted the terms, and then you start, and then she changes her mind. Too bad, you make her drink anyway. But wait a minute, we have Rabbi Akiva, another brayso, Rabbi Hula Omer Kilabus Barzel Matilin Lefia. Rabbi Yehuda says this is how you do it. You put this kind of an iron, here translates crescent into her mouth, but basically kind of a spout. You kind of insert and this actually is kind of a disturbing image because it reminds me of one of the methods of execution by the Sanhedrin, which is sreifa, which is burning. Is not you don't burn the person in a pyre, but you pour molten lead down their throat, which sounds pretty horrible. And obviously, some kind of device like this would be needed. So the same kind of device you insert into her mouth so that you can pour the water into her, down her throat. Why do you do that? Because if she decides to refuse, you do it by force. So this is even a little more disturbing in that, like, because you're afraid that she might change her mind, you always put this device in her mouth so that you can pour it down her throat. Okay, so Rabbi Akiva says, like, do we even need like the only purpose of the water is to determine whether she is guilty. V'halo beduka v'amedas. Um, like if she refuses to drink, then that itself is an indication that she's guilty. In other words, what Rabbi Akiva is saying is, why do you even need to bother forcing her to drink if in the middle of the ceremony she says, you know what, I'm not going to participate anymore? That's obviously because she knows she's guilty, and so she's afraid of the water. So then we've accomplished our purpose, which is to demonstrate her guilt. Why do you need to force her to drink the water for? Ella Ajlo, so what does Rabbi Akiva say? Ella Ajlo Karav Hakomet Sichol Asarba. Rabbi Akiva says, no, and even until the mincha is sacrificed, she can still change her mind. Misha Karbakomet and Yichol Asarba. But um, once the mincha is offered, then she can't change her mind anymore. I mean, we'll see in a minute why clear that should also be an admission of guilt, right? So why do you even need to bother with the mincha? We'll see that in a minute. But anyway, but this indicates that Rabbi Akiva holds that if after the ink has been scraped off the parchment, then she refuses. Here, Rabbi Akiva says you don't have to force her to drink. And before we were saying the other Brisa said that Rabbi Akiva says you do have to force her to drink it. So what's up? So first, the Gemara deals with the difficulty I brought up a minute ago. The whole second brisa doesn't make sense at all, because if Rabbi Akiva is saying the whole point of the water is to demonstrate her guilt, and by refusing to drink, she's already demonstrated her guilt. So don't force her to drink the water after even after the scroll is scraped off. You could say the same thing about the mincha. Like even after the mincha is offered on the altar, like if she refuses to drink, we've accomplished our purpose. She's obviously guilty. She's demonstrating her guilt. So my answer is, look, Hashi, that's not a problem. Like it depends on her state of mind, right? So this is what he means to say. If she changes her mind in a calm state, like even after what he's saying is it's not really dependent on what stage we're at. We're reinterpreting Rabbi Akiva to say it depends on her state of mind when she refused. If she was agitated, then that demonstrates her guilt, that her now refusing. But if she's calm, then it's like, wait a minute, no, it's the other way around. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. It's the other way around. If she's agitated, right? So then her refusing to drink might not be because because she knows she's guilty. It might be because she is confused or frightened, agitated in some way by the whole ceremony, right? It's like, watching the name of God written on the parchment be scraped off into this water. Maybe that's a really upsetting thing. And if she's like, I'm not drinking that, I'm not drinking, could be I'm not drinking the name of God, in this water. It maybe is not because because she knows she's guilty. It's because she's just generally agitated by the whole procedure, and she doesn't want to participate anymore. But if she is in a calm state of mind and she says, I changed my mind, I'm not doing this anymore, then that would be an admission of guilt. So machmas resisa. So if she's agitated, ajla karav hakomets. That depends on when, like, if she changes her mind before the offering, before on the altar, then that's a state where she is in a calm state of mind, because the ink hasn't been scraped off yet. Or maybe where they scraped it off too early. Okay, so Mazi Hadraba, then she can retract. Misha Kamatz Hakamatz, but once the sacrifice has been offered, the bedin avi kohanim demache, and the kohanim are doing it the right way. Lo matziat Rebbe, then she can't anymore. So anyway, but the basic problem was, like, we had two different views of Rabbi Akiva expressed. One brisa says that you do force her to drink the water after once you've started with the erasing of the scraping off of the ink, and the other one he says it's not even necessary because she's demonstrating her own guilt. So Kasha Rabbi Kiva, aren't these contradictory? Because also Mamar Mechika Me'akva. In one place he says that erasing the ink is essential in forcing her to drink. And the other one, he says no, it's the offering of the mincha that affects or that causes us to force her to drink. So Gemara says, yeah, it is contradictory. These two brises, they're disputing what Rabbi Akiva's view actually was, right? So indeed, Rabbi Akiva had one position, but we don't know what it was, and we're arguing over the position of Rabbi Akiva. Let's just finish up to the Mishnah. Ibayalehu. They ask a question. Amar any shoso machmas b'yusa. If she's in a calm state of mind and she says, "I'm not drinking," and then she says, "Okay, maybe I will after all." Mao. So what do we do? Tama anika. Do we say that if since she was in a calm state of mind and she says, "I'm not drinking this," is that like an admission of guilt? And it's too late to take it back. She then, like, by saying, "Okay, I will," she's already demonstrated her guilt by stating in a calm way that she is not going to participate anymore. That's obviously because she's admitting guilt. So if she changes her mind and says, "I will do it," do we proceed or not? So Tmei Nikamra, is she saying, when she first refuses, is she saying, "I'm guilty," basically? So she, once she's already admitted it, then it doesn't matter what she says afterwards. If she says, "Oh, I will do it after all," no, she's already demonstrated her guilt. Or maybe we do accept her retraction. So maybe she looked calm, but if she then changes her mind and says, "Oh, I will drink," like, maybe now she's being calm. Maybe when she first refused, maybe she was actually agitated, and so the admission of guilt wasn't really an admission of guilt. Teku, where says, we don't know. We don't have an answer to that one. Amar Shmuel's father said, you have to put something bitter into the water. Put some quinine in there or something. My tama, because the Torah calls it the bitter waters. So shemarim kvar, meaning it says that you scrape the ink into the bitter water. So the ink, can be an ingredient that makes them bitter, but when the Torah says scrape the ink into the bitter waters, means they were bitter already. So you have to put in something that will make the water bitter, even aside from the ink, and then scrape the ink into it. Okay. And we will stop here for today and pick up tomorrow with the Mishnah.
Thank you, Doug.
Have a good day, everybody.
You too.
Thank you. Have a good day.